Everyone, Joe Menza here, and we're going to do a nice snowy scene, a snow scene, pine trees, and we've got some 140-pound, this is the Paul Rubens paper. It's kind of an odd size. It's like 15.5 by 10.5, not sure the exact size. Comes on a block, and it's glued all the way around. You have to slice it off to get it off. But I like it. It's good paper. Now, I've sprayed on some yellow. It's kind of a combo of Azo yellow and some yellow ochre. If you've seen my previous videos, I'll add about an inch of paint to about an ounce or two of water. And I like to spray that on sometimes. It just gives a different effect. Now, I'm going in here some, this is like some phthalo blue. And I'm doing this just a little more of an intense blue. It kind of almost comes up with a green sort of an effect, which is going to be good for the particular scene that we're doing. And I want to leave a little bit of light maybe coming through the back, which will offset with some distant trees. I've added just a little bit of cobalt in here. Now you can use ultramarine if you want to stick to the basic colors. I've branched out a little bit. I've got like 3, 4 of each blue, 4 of each red, 4 of each yellow. Really the reason is that just for different combinations, just to be different, just so things look kind of different. Now I've added just a little bit more yellow to that. I kind of want a little bit of almost like a greeny yellow sort of a cast, because with the pine trees, it's kind of like a wooded type area. Now I've cleared a little bit of that out. I felt like my light lit area, if I could say it properly, just needed a little bit more space. So I've sprayed on a little bit more of that yellow, and I want to get some light going across, basically. Now here I'm making up a dark green, some yellow, blue, and Payne's gray. And I want to make some distant pines. Now this is a little heavier than what I intended. You can use a little bit more water, and you do this while it's wet so that it kind of fades off into the background. We want these to be the lightest thing in the painting. So we'll just put a few pines back in here. And again, I'm using a small, stiff fan brush. I find it's good for doing pine trees. So I'm giving it another little zap of the yellow, and actually I grabbed the wrong bottle. These spray bottles, they start to get a little spattery after a while, so I got a new set of spray bottles. You want to, after you use these, you kind of want to spray some clean water through them to keep them clean, I found. And I'm going to lower my board here to a lower angle so stuff doesn't run too much. And probably going to run these trees just a little bit, but that's okay. I want them to look a little bit more distancy than they are. So now you can see these trees are starting to run a little bit, which is fine. I wouldn't have to go through this if I had made them a little bit lighter to begin with. But this is good because it'll show you what you can do if you make them a little too heavy and you want them to be a little more distanced. So I'm just going to, while it's kind of drying and running, I'm just going to make a little shadowy. I don't want this to be too bright on the bottom, but I've left this area empty because this is going to be where our snow is. And I don't like to just leave no paint on the paper. I like to put a little bit of a tint to it. I find if you make it too stark white, it just really stands out too much. So I like to tint that just a little bit. So while those trees are drying, I'll do some more distant trees next to those. We'll do a lighter color. I'll use the fan brush, and I'll use a little bit more water, a little less paint. And we'll put this really the same tone, but really just a little bit more water. And we'll make these a little bit lighter. You see, these are a little bit more gray, a little bit more transparent. And as you can see already, they're lighter. So as this all dries and comes to, dries out, you'll see these things will look a little further back. Plus I'll go over these other trees a little bit more. So we'll have like 3 layers, which isn't a bad thing. And I'll put another one here, although these are probably, some of these will get a little covered up by foreground trees. But it doesn't hurt because it'll give you an idea of, when you try something like this yourself. I'll just shape these a little bit more. Okay, so I'm gonna shape these trees a little bit better since they ran a little bit. And that just means putting some more branches on there. Using those same darker colors. Just give them their shape back. Okay, so here we'll start putting in some darker pines. I'm going to go with a heavier value here, more paint, less water. And I'm going to try to keep these so you can see the background trees a little bit. Try to split the uprights here a little bit. And you'll notice this is darker and a little more vivid than the trees next to it, and certainly the trees behind it. Okay, on this side, we're just going to put some even darker trees. These will be the darkest valued trees. At least that's the plan at this point. And that's probably a little too dark. So I'm going to mix up a little bit more water, maybe a little bit more yellow. You don't want to use Payne's gray by itself because it's just too dark. So a nice grouping of trees here. I'm going to highlight these with some lemon yellow. My lemon yellow is a little contaminated. People ask me about contamination of my colors. It's not really a problem except really on the yellows. Very rarely do I want yellow just all by itself. If I do, I can squeeze a little bit more out. It's not really a problem. Now while that's all drying, I'm just going to do a little foreground area here. Just to give it a shape. Maybe there's like a little curvature in the path going up and around the trees. And if you see a little smoky clouds going by, that's just me. I hit it with I have my very fine spray bottle and I give it a spray just to keep it wet enough to make things sort of blend together. Okay, so now I just don't want it to be totally white underneath those trees. So we'll just do a little bit of shadowing, pull some of that paint off that's beneath the trees. Just don't want it look like they're floating in midair. So whenever you have something that's like on a ground like that there's nothing beneath it, people on a road, figures, put a little something underneath just to kind of ground it, to anchor it to the ground. So in here, I'm going to take a little bit of my yellow bottle again. I'm going to give it a little spritz in the snow area, very lightly, just as if it would be reflecting some of that yellow in the background. It's not enough to really kill the snow, but just enough to just give it a little bit more light on top and just a little bit in the snow area, so it just slightly tints it a little bit. So now while we're wet underneath this tree and maybe the other trees, I'm just going to take my card And I'm just going to make a few little rocks underneath that might be formation underneath these trees. And that'll give it a little bit of a base as well. So here and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this a little more of a spritz, with a little heavier spritz with water. And I'm going to let this just kind of run a little bit. It might kill my rocks a little bit. That's okay. I just want to kind of dissolve this into the snow below it, so it's not like a hard edge, and it'll just look like it's softened like into the snow area. And if it runs too much, I just pick up a little paint with my paper towel. So now any rocks that were lost, I'm just going to take my card and just give a little scratch, a little better of a scratch there. And I'm going to take a little darker color here and just anchor those to the ground, like I said I would do with the trees. Just so those rocks look like they're cemented into the ground. So this is my little last details phase. I'll just look at areas that the painting needs, any little touch-ups, and like here by the tree, just kind of connect that a little bit. Just anywhere I feel like I can make, little improvements. But that's pretty much it for this painting. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you want to see full videos, I've got quite a few videos now on Patreon. We've got a lot of patrons over there. And it's a price of a fancy cup of coffee every month. You can watch a lot of extra videos, more detailed videos, more experimental things that I don't necessarily put up on YouTube. So I appreciate everyone who has been supporting me. You can support me other ways. You can buy paintings. You can click like. You can put a comment. All those things help kind of advance forward the goal of just kind of spreading the word on this fast and loose method and how much fun it is. Pop a couple little birds in here. And that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed this. I thank you so much for watching. Here is the final version in its matte. Thanks again, everyone. Bye-bye.